Eric Rossi, the guy with the eye, and just yesterday, or well, depending on wherever you're watching this, Sony released a new update to their RX line of cameras, specifically their RX10 line of cameras. They released, or they're announcing, and it's coming out very soon, the Sony RX10 Mark III. Now, on the surface, this may not seem like a big deal. It's a $1,500 camera. It is, and it's pretty much replacing the price points of the 2 and the 1 and whenever they first came out. It's a Sony body. They come out with the newer tech, put it in something like this, and it has a fixed lens. But there's a lot of interesting things in something like this and features, and I feel that covering these might intrigue some people, and once again, it just encourages discussion on what you can put into these. I don't want to call it point and shoot. I guess it by definition it is, but we could put into cameras like this, and you know, everything included is like it's like 2.4 pounds, so it's not that heavy. It's very portable. It's very lightweight, but there is a lot of information to go into and some features that I'll show you and stuff like that. But let's just talk about it. And is this something of interest to you? I'll have a poll. Do you think it's interesting? Yes or no? Let's go. So as I mentioned right here, this guy is $1,500 or girl, depending on who's ever buying it. 20 megapixels. It has similar specs to the Mark II of this, so it's going to have some of the similar specs. It's the newer processor, the Bionz X processor. The cool thing is it had a 24 to 635 millimeter equivalent, 24 millimeter to 600 f2.4 Zeiss lens right here to f4.4 to f4. So essentially, you have, you know, at your very, very shallow end of your telephoto range, your wide, you got a 2.4, which is fantastic, but all the way at 600 millimeters, you have f4. And if you go through this right here, you'll notice, there it is right here, kind of zoomed out. So that's what it looks like right here. You have that much right there. And this is pretty much showing you some images. Check the Sony site, you'll see stuff closer. But that is a fantastic range. It's almost unprecedented. It's unheard of. Yes, it's a smaller sensor. It's not full frame, obviously, but it's just another option that you have out there. On here as well, on the camera, you'll have a touch. You'll have not a touch screen. You'll have a tilt screen on the back, 3-inch LCD. You get 14 frames per second. It's, they say it's pretty accurate. ISO range 100 to 12,800, pretty much similar stuff, newer stuff, so it might not be that bad. You get your shutter in regular modes up to 1/2000th of a second, so you get some pretty good range with it, but it does have a shoe to where you could obviously use triggers, use high-speed sync, and all that kind of stuff. And the cool thing is this does do 4K video. I'll cover that in 1 second, all the video specs, which makes this pretty much interesting. There's one cool thing about the lens as well. This does have a mic input, so that way you could put a mic into it, which is pretty awesome. And the lens has optical image stabilization. And this really covers a lot of the main stuff. Once again, so the lens, 18 elements in 13 groups, so it's going to look great at 600 millimeters. That compression is going to look pretty fantastic. But overall, the video is probably going to be one of the most interesting things because it's 2016. It, of course, has, and it's a Sony camera, so they've been really kind of crushing the 4K market. So it does do pretty much full 4K at 24 and 30 frames per second, all depending on the look. You'll probably want it at 24 frames per second, so still not 60 frames per second, so don't worry about that. But then in some kind of crop modes and some of their native modes, you can actually get 1080p, which doesn't look the best. Let me see if I can find it. So I'm looking at some of the samples right here that you'll see. It does have 1080p at 960 frames per second. You'll have it at 480, 240. As you see it right here, it's kind of moving around, all depending if you're PAL or NTSC, if you're in the States. But you'll have 960, 480, 240. But natively, something that's going to look pretty good is your 126 frames per second, and then your regular 30 and 24. I know that's a lot of information, but as you can see, this 961 right here, it's not sharp at all. So you are getting a cropped in image, and it's not going to look that good. So I think that's more or less, it's a cool thing to have, but it's something really useful. I don't know if it really is because it's really kind of blurry, but the native 120 to 60 is probably going to be some amazing stuff that you're going to see out of a camera like this anyway. So 30-minute record time, pretty cool. But another interesting fact about this, and something that they didn't have before, is there are 3 options you can do on your lens. So it's really cool. So you know, in your front, you got your zoom and your focus, obviously. But then if you see back here, they actually have an aperture ring, which is pretty interesting. When I was watching the review about one with the Sony reps, and he was saying that it has a clicked aperture, so that way you know as you're moving, so you have to remove your eye and everything, which just, you know, that disheartened me, because I'm like, well, people might want to use this for video, they won't want that, but you can actually turn that off. So it can be a, you know, a clicked aperture or actually a declicked aperture ring, which is really cool. And I think that's going to be a great selling point for someone who wants this. I mean, is this going to be the average consumer camera? Probably not. You know, the RX10 Mark IV is a great seller for vloggers and everything, you know, more professionals out there with the price range. The Sony a6300 is another strong suit, but that needs lenses and everything as well. But this obviously is just a kind of all-in-one camera. These do sell pretty well from, to my knowledge. I know a couple people work in the camera shops, so these do sell pretty well. But once again, $1,500 is not for your average consumer out there. This is for someone who needs something reliable and knows exactly what they need. So who's this for? Once again, it's not for someone just starting out. While it wouldn't be a bad thing because you would get a ton out of it, the Panasonic Lumix line really kind of has similar stuff when everything's kind of all in one. I'm gonna do my best to get hands-on with this, and I think they said so on B&H you can check it out right now. It's actually available for pre-order, but you can get it pretty much tomorrow, actually. So on the 31st, it will be available for purchase. So I think it's coming out soon. I don't know if it's really shipping until late April, I think it said. So maybe April, maybe May. But $1,500 is a lot of money, but there is a lot of cool things that's going to come from something like this. Check out the link down below just to check this out on B&H, see if this is something for you. But overall, this is really cool. And is this something that you think could be useful for the, you know, prosumer or professional out there? Is this something that you would ever have in your kit? Let me know down below. Eric Rossi, the guy with the eye. Please subscribe for more videos, previews, and reactions. Let's talk about it. Let's discuss. Let's have some fun.